My hair smells like burnt mushrooms.
I'll lick your teeth if you want.
How does one turn on a wand?
Welcome. I'm Kat.
I'm Hunter.
And we are your
We're
Fairy Gaymothers
Sorta.
Sorta.
Episode 14.
Episode 14.
Welcome.
Great.
The penultimate episode,
The
apparently.
penultimate episode of season 1.
Yes. Kat introduced me to that word today. I will not take credit.
I won't take credit for it either,
She
but
invented the word. I do love words that start with pan. Panopticon.
it's pen. Penultimate, not penultimate.
Hey, episode 14.
Are you excited? Because we are so excited.
So here
And
for
we
it.
have it all together today.
This is not the fifth take.
No.
Today, our lesson is Know Thy Shepherd. Sounds biblical in nature, not our intention.
No. However, the nature is possibly biblical in terms of when the ideology was culturally relevant to society.
That's so true. And stays culturally relevant because of farms
Exactly. But we're going to be talking about lambs in our society
and losers.
and losers wearing shepherd's clothing.
So stay tuned for that. But first, let's get into our regularly scheduled bits
Woo woo. Starting off,
with what a fairy gay mother is.
a fairy gay mother is someone, something, could be either animate or inanimate. They are making this world a better place through mainly good vibes. And those good vibes, they are occurring in a way that's a little bit outside the box, in a way that's queer, in a way that's pushing boundaries. So that can be art, it can be science, it can be hotness, it can be other things we haven't even thought of yet. But overall, a fairy gay mother is making this world a better place in their mission, in their duties, in their everyday lives. And that's what we're aspiring to be.
Absolutely. And every week we like to pick someone that we think emulates these vibes and who we aspire to be like. So this week, I believe Kat has picked a fairy gay mother.
I have indeed. All right, this week, our fairy gay mother is none other than the Meg Stalter. Megan
Great
Stalter,
choice.
comedian, actor, founder of Hi Gay, also star of Hacks, and what's the name of the Lena? Too Much, the Lena Dunham show.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, comedic genius. Also, the power of a bit.
Yes.
No one knows the power of a bit like Meg Stalter.
Yes.
But genuinely, I don't even want to talk that much about her.
Okay.
Because I want everyone to go out and just look her up and watch her. But also, and I know we say, like, you don't have to be queer. Is queer, happily with her girlfriend. And I think really embodies pushing boundaries in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like, she just got the Vanguard Award at the Queer Teas.
Oh, no
which
way.
are like a gay award show ceremony. And in her speech talked about like, I'm so glad I'm pretty because if I wasn't, I don't think I would have half the things that I did. And if I were skinny, I think I would have twice what I do now. And just like, we'll say that on a stage full of people.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything you do, Megan Stalter. You are literally a god, and I worship the ground that you tread, walk on, float through. Yeah, I love you.
All right, moving on to our next segment, we're going to talk about our crash bit bangs of the week. On our road to becoming fairy gay mothers, we hit some bumps, we hit some strides, and we like to discuss them each week with you guys. So, Kat, would you like to start with your crash?
Sure. My crash this week was whilst watching the show Age of Attraction on Netflix.
Oh.
It's one of Netflix's latest strange ventures into dating reality shows that grabs people's attention by doing something weird. And so the premise is essentially they take all these single people and put them in a retreat for like 2 weeks, and you can talk to people about anything, but you are not allowed to discuss your age. And then once you have met someone you want to pursue something with, you go to a promise room and you give each other promise rings.
Oh, wow.
And after exchanging the promise rings, you can disclose your age. So sure, interesting concept. It's trying to say, you know, age is just a number. And it's hosted by Nick Viall and his wife, who are 18 years apart. And I don't know much about Nick Viall, but I know he's not seen as a good person. So I think having him as the host is kind of a weird play, but okay.
He was on Bachelor Nation, right? Like he was
I genuinely don't know.
I think he was on The Bachelorette first as a contestant. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
As a potential dating option.
Yeah.
And then maybe had his own season, maybe ended up on Paradise. But I think that's where because he's got his podcast, The Viall Files.
Yeah.
Where he discusses kind kind of like reality shows and dating and things like that, and often has people from Bachelor Nation on there. But yeah, no, I agree. I think I have heard that he's not.
Yeah, so just like weird
vibes
host,
all around.
but whatever. And I would like to preface, don't get me wrong, I don't think necessarily there's anything wrong with an age gap in a relationship if you have like shared values, you know, shared experiences, shared goals. But this show, for the most part, not all episodes are out yet, so we don't know the conclusion, and it's not like they're getting married at the end of the show. That's not ultimately where it goes. It's like a commitment ceremony, but there's nothing legal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This show goes pretty much exactly how you'd think.
Okay.
Except worse. Probably because you immediately have this one guy in particular where it's very clear his type is young.
No,
like he's like,
thank
I've got
you.
no fear when it comes to dating younger. You know, like if we've got shared interests and shared values. He's got 2 kids. He's 38, and the girl he leaves the retreat with, and then they live together for 10 days or something. She's 22, 23.
Sorry.
So like it's a 16.
That was judgmental.
Whatever it is, I think it's like a 16 or 18 year age gap. 16-year age gap. His daughters are 14 and 12. So she's closer to their age than she is to his age, which again, I can think of plenty happy relationships where there is a significant age gap like that. Basically, my takeaway from watching the show, because you also had a guy who was 60 with a girl who was 27. That's a 33-year age gap. And I love Holland Taylor and Sarah Paulson, and they are, I think, more than 30 years apart.
Yeah, they've got a decent age gap.
Yeah, there are no children involved there.
They met as
adults. I don't think either one of them were even in their 20s. Like, I think your 20s are such a very specific time.
Absolutely.
Where you're barely an adult. That's what I tell myself anyway. In your 20s.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. My frontal lobe is fresh.
Is
okay.
fresh. Yeah. No, I agree. I don't necessarily have an issue with an age gap, but I do think that you're not mature enough to be making decisions like that at the age of 22, nor are you like biologically developed enough.
No. And I think I just kept saying to myself while watching, because they kept saying, oh, age is just a number. You can prove age is just a number. It's like how in Love is Blind, they do like
love really is
blind for age of attraction. It's like age is just a number. And it's like age is just a number, but experience and maturity are measurable. Okay?
Yeah.
Those we can see, those we can take into our hands and weigh our experiences and our shared goals. And you can't just be like, well, we both love rock climbing, so we're meant to be. Even though I'm old, I'm still young and fit and hot.
Okay, I don't know the right answer to it, and I'm open to being persuaded otherwise. I have personally never dated someone who had an age gap of more than a couple years at most. And I do think at this age of 26, I am mature enough and have enough understanding of myself that if I met a 60-year-old, like that couple that you were talking about is 27 and 60, that I would be mature enough to make that decision for myself right now. Do I think we would have a lot in common? No. My parents are 60. Like that's, you know, but I do think I'm like mature enough to make that decision. I know for a fact when I was 22, I was absolutely not. Like there's got to be something, and I don't know what age it is that your prefrontal cortex really develops. I understand there's delays and certain, and that's wild to me.
Yeah.
And why is it always men?
Well, there is a couple on there as well where she's 54 and he's 27. But the biggest thing in their age gap is that her oldest son is 29. And don't get me wrong, the guy in that relationship does seem older, and from what I can tell, he does act more mature.
Okay.
But she talks a lot about like the stereotypes that older women face when they're with younger men. And I also think they don't talk about it, but I think there are stereotypes with younger men who are with older women.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But it's very much like about her children, and you never ever really see that conversation. You very rarely see that conversation with older men and younger women.
Yes.
It's just assumed that that's a lot more natural.
But I am worried that when it comes to age gap relationships where it is an older man, like depending, like that man who's going for a 22-year-old, like I'm worried that some of that attraction to younger women specifically, especially when it's a trend, like when you consistently date younger, like that feels to me mayhaps like it could be rooted in patriarchy, which is rooted in pedophilia.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I agree. We're on the verge of something very scary here. I don't think we're talking about that enough.
Something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, not all the episodes are out yet, so I haven't like actually followed. But the whole time I'm just like, I think this is weird. And not in the way that the other Netflix shows are weird, and not in the sense that just because it's an age gap, but in the sense of like, I think we're focusing way too much on the age gap and not at all on any of the other aspects of the relationship.
Yeah.
That's the fundamental issue with the show, I think.
We should bring back that dating show that, was it Netflix that did it, where they put you in an animal costume?
Yes, it was. Okay, anyway, what was your crash out this week?
So, really quick, St. Patrick's Day has just passed.
Mhm.
I saw so many stories of people posting their boyfriend saying like, I'm not Irish, but I got lucky with you. This is not a time for you to post your ugly boyfriend. This is a time for you to get blackout and let me know it.
Stop.
And then the last one was just Glee having a reboot on Disney Plus. Did you see that?
No, I saw the High School Musical, the series Gleeification, but I didn't see a Glee
No,
reboot.
so Glee is being, I'll give you a guess actually.
Okay.
So Glee is being rebooted on Disney Plus, and there is an original member of the Hamilton Broadway cast. Who do you think it is?
A member of the original
Hamilton.
Broadway cast.
Yeah.
Were they also in Glee?
No, they're going to be in the reboot.
Anthony Ramos? Yeah. Who is he? The new Schuster?
I feel like he might be.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, and that anyways got me, I was crashing out over that. I think Glee was perfect as it was for the time that it came out in.
Exactly.
And I think it, like, the reason that it was funny is because it was already controversial when it was coming out. You could absolutely not get away with saying that stuff on TV today. And so I think it just won't be funny.
It's not Glee without the controversy.
It's not Glee without Jane Lynch.
It's not Glee without Josh Groban. Who is Josh Groban? Kill yourself. You know, and you can't say that now.
Anyways, what was your bit?
My bit this week, it's not necessarily something I can't stop saying, but it's something that has just played over and over again in my mind. And there was a girl on TikTok who was doing one of those, like, I'm gonna say girl things to my boyfriend and see if he knows what they are. And literally the very first one she starts with is, okay, waterline. And it becomes very clear that this is an autistic man who is going to kind of talk through his thoughts and overanalyze every word. So he's like, okay, I think there could be two lines. I have two lines of thinking here. One is it could have to do with like your water breaking when you give birth, or like, this is what got me, the line that marks how full your diva cup is. Like, that got me so insanely good. You don't know.
Enjoy the critical thinking, and I appreciate it. What do you think goes in a diva cup? Is it water?
Exactly. Also, like, you think someone's taking out a diva cup and going, oh, not quite at the water line, and then shoving it back in. That's not quite the way a diva cup works. Just got me so good.
That's good. I like that.
What was your bit?
It was the two lead writers of Royal Court with Brittany Broski.
Yep.
They were doing like, this is what we say when this situation happens, and then you have to guess what's on top of the phone. And it was like, this is what we say anytime we're in a situation that we don't want to be. And the girl goes, oh, can I have an angel shot, please? For those of you who don't know, an angel shot is something that a woman can order at a bar when they are feeling uncomfortable or need help, and that is supposed to be a cue to the bartender or whoever's working that they need some help in their current situation. And,
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I just told the men that though, and now they know. Well, you should know. Get away.
Take the hint.
Take the hint.
I'm going to ask you for an angel shot to your face. Go to the bar and order me an angel shot.
Yeah. And I feel like we should say that. We say when we're in a situation we don't like, we go, hello, capital punishment.
Yeah.
And I think that should be a new one.
Yep.
And so what's your bang?
Hey everyone, Editing Cat back here once again. I cannot believe I went with a completely different bang because this is the only thing that matters in my world right now, and it's Deadlock Season 2. It's on Prime Video. It is an Australian dark comedy, crime, murder, mystery, and it's the funniest but best show I've ever seen. I'm not telling you any more than that. You must go watch it if you have not yet seen it. Bye for now. Ta-ta.
What about you? What was your bang?
Bang number one, the new, I believe it's a series, but it could be a movie. I don't know. The 99ers. Do I know anything about soccer? No. Do I know a lot about gay women? Yeah. And I can't freaking wait. Isabel Furman is in it, who was Clove. Not Clove. Yes, Clove in the original Hunger Games movie. And in that horror movie Orphan, we've got Emily Bader, who was just in People We Meet on Vacation, but also in an incredible show, My Lady Jane. Like, the cast is stacked, and I cannot wait to have a new lesbian show about soccer players that isn't one with with cannibalism.
I hate to break it to you, I don't know how gay it's gonna be.
No, I don't think actually it's that gay. It's just
Okay.
like a bunch of women playing a sport and like
It
that's
is.
gay enough. Don't
Yeah.
worry. I have unfortunately broken this news to myself. Like I'm aware it has nothing to do with gay people.
Well, not nothing, but yeah.
But it's not going to be heated rivalry.
No, it's certainly not.
But in my mind, it will be. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I'll be watching it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
To be fair, like, actually, no, that's not true. I was going to say, to be fair, like, not that much gay shit happens in Yellow Jackets. Hunter, what are you talking about?
That's a lie.
You ever eaten your best friend? That's gay. Number 2, I actually sent this video to Kat on TikTok because I was like, if I had to bear witness to this, so do you. And it was a like masked lesbian thirst trap. She's like working in a car shop and is putting on a tire and like thrusting into the tire and like to that song Beautiful Mistakes by I think Maroon 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was like, no, this is awful. I hate this. Like it has to stop. Not the lesbians. Like we're better than this. And then I was like, I guess I have to give everyone equal opportunity to be awful. And so my bang was like, you know what?
Goddamn DEI.
I was just like, you know what? At least affirmative action. I'm glad. As much as I hate to see it, I am glad that women are able to be awful too. Yeah, we're going to take a break and then we'll come back when we're ready to get into the lesson. Know thy shepherd.
See you there. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a good break. We are feeling refreshed and ready to go. So, as we said, the lesson for this week is know thy shepherd. And we chose to categorize this lesson this way because we watched the Inside the Manosphere documentary. And one of our takeaways that we wanted to talk about was people are preying on the loneliness and instability and vulnerability of a lot of young people nowadays and hurting them towards a dark, dark future that doesn't set them up for success and actively makes the world around them a worse place. And we want people to take a look at who they are following, who they're allowing to kind of guide them, shepherd them, because clearly these people will happily lead you to the slaughter, all right? All right. So let's get into it.
Yeah. I thought we could give like a more specific brief overview of what the Inside the Manosphere documentary was targeting, kind of how it was formatted.
I'll do that.
Okay, perfect.
So before we get into that, I just have a quick definition of the Manosphere for those who are not familiar. So the UN defines the Manosphere as kind of a loose network of communities that claim to address men's struggles, and specifically online. So struggles like dating, fitness, fatherhood, but they often promote harmful advice and attitudes. And they specifically promote the narrow and aggressive definitions of what it means to be a man and the false narrative that feminism and gender equality have come at the cost of men's rights.
Yeah. I had no idea the UN was even up in this bitch, so super happy to hear that they've defined it.
Well, because the Manosphere plays a large part in violence against women and cybersecurity specifically. That's something that the UN has had to develop policies around because of these fringe groups, which have become very much not on the fringes anymore. So Louis Theroux, who is a respected journalist and documentarian, he's British, takes the audience, as he claims, inside the Manosphere. So specifically highlights 4 popular content creators who exist kind of at the top of the bubble that is the Manosphere. So these creators are Harrison Sullivan, aka HS Tiki Talkie, Justin Waller, and I think that's just his name, Amru Foodle, who is Myron Gaines, and Nicholas Balinthazi, who is known as Sneeko online. So he meets with them. They give some context with clips of the stuff that these guys are preaching, and he asks them kind of what their values are, what their beliefs are, their thoughts on women, their thoughts on why they put out content, specifically what the goals behind that content is. And we also get an interaction from pretty much all of them with fans that approach them in the streets. So you see a little bit of that interaction with what their audience looks like and how their audience receives all of them. But generally, their content tells young men that they have no value, that they are born with no value. And so they have to work against the systems that be. And they call the systems that be the matrix. And they think that the systems that be actively are trying to keep them down and suppress them, that the matrix doesn't want them to make money. The Matrix doesn't want them to be with a beautiful woman. The Matrix doesn't want them to be successful in life. And that you have to reject the systems that are in place right now. But not only reject these systems, hate these systems. And a lot of what they blame this oppression and this devaluation of men on is feminism, general equality, and a lot of like
Women.
pretty much. So they value women essentially as, and I quote Myron Gaines here. Hang on, I have someone's quote here. Hang on, I'm about to command F titties. They value women as, and I quote Myron Gaines here, a vagina and titties. And that's it. They think that women's value lies in beauty and sexuality. But if you use either of those things, you are a slag, pretty much. You have no value once you actually have ownership over those things. Don't misconstrue their words.
Know your place.
Yeah. Was there anything else specifically? They think that men have to look and act a certain way in order to be good, strong men. Like they think men should be absolutely ripped, that they should talk to women a certain way, and that they should be dominant alphas, and that all women secretly want to be dominated no matter what they actually say. There were a few times where each of them said a woman's subconscious desires that's what you're supposed to be meeting. Yeah, I feel like that's a decent.
Yeah.
All right. So overall, I think it's also important to note that a lot of these guys, they have podcasts, they live stream, they've got lots of content that they are producing and putting out into the digital world. And this content gets billions of views, right? That's why I said theoretically this is something that started on the fringes, but it is no longer on the fringes of society. This is content that I have seen come across my algorithm before. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
It's not something I actively watch because why the fuck would I do that? But I know people who have watched this content, and specifically I know men who have watched this content. I know men who have fallen victim to a lot of this ideology.
Yeah.
But the documentary shows that they almost always have a product that they are promoting at the end of the day. Whether they're selling you fitness programs or business programs, or they are getting a piece of the money that you invest into these terrible, terrible online brokers. They have alternate motives.
Absolutely.
And even HS Tiki himself admits to the fact that a lot of what he says online, a lot of the like, no one wants a ting that's been ran through, and
that he has no respect for women who work in sex work,
or he'll say like racist stuff
or homophobic
stuff. He said to Louis Theroux, like, at the end of the day, it's an attention economy. I'm saying anything that I think will get me attention so that people start following me.
Yeah, he called it click farming.
Yeah.
Which I think social media in general is kind of a larger both product and problem when it comes to the Manosphere and Red Pill content, because you're right, these men may not even really hold these beliefs, but even HS Tiki said, if I was a good person, I wouldn't have blown up on social media, which I think is why it's becoming more mainstream. It's kind of like the car crash you can't look away from as well. Yeah.
And HS Tiki is someone whose hypocrisy is pretty evident throughout the documentary, and I think highlights kind of the hypocrisy of the Manosphere in general, especially their views on women. Like, he bought a company that manages OnlyFans girls, but thinks that anyone who does OnlyFans is disgusting and would never date them and would never, do anything. Like, one of the direct quotes was, "Do I agree with it? No. Am I willing to profit off of it? Yeah." And openly said he would disown his thought daughter or gay son.
Yes.
That is a little bit of a paraphrase, but no, he did say that.
That is what he said. And then later, when confronted with that information in front of his mother, he goes, "That's not homophobic."
Yeah.
I would disagree.
And his mother being there was wild, but it did help to point out that another one of his hypocrisies, that he was like, women should be the ones doing all the domestic labor. Like, I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning, I'm not doing any of that stuff. And then there's a clip of him at the end where his mom is like, wipe up the floor, and he's like on all fours wiping up the floor. Yeah, and like clearly wants to like take care of his mother and like listens to what she says.
Yeah. They were talking to one of the girls that's, I believe, on that OnlyFans like management site that HS TikTok owns. I cannot say that with a straight face. And she was like, he's like a decent guy. He's genuine. And just to see the way that, like, yes, she needs him in terms of profit if that like website is helping her with her reach, but has rationalized his behavior, even though it is directly harmful to her. And he has said to her face directly harmful things, how that can be rationalized from like a woman's perspective, and how like having a male-centered world is still highly encouraged and enticing to some women.
Well, I think the segment with Myron Gaines also shows that very well, because Myron Gaines is known for having like women, predominantly Instagram models and OnlyFans girls, on his podcast, on his shows, and his audience during a live stream will comment on like their appearance. He'll ask them like, oh my gosh, he has this calculator that he's created.
Yeah.
Where he'll ask the women, okay, like, what's your minimum height requirement? What's your minimum salary? And something else I can't remember.
Yeah, it was lots of stuff like that.
And the women on the show will give answers like 6 feet must be like $300K a year and this age. And then he'll throw a stat back at them that this calculator has somehow algorithmically come up with this figure like, oh, there's a 0.02% chance that you'll meet a man who fits all of those statistics. So like, why do you overvalue yourself so much? Why do you think that you are worth that much when you clearly are not? So he'll call groups of women out on his podcast like this. But it also shows that, honestly, it's kind of sad to me, because clearly they're using each other to raise their profiles. Like that same audience that's calling her disgusting will also be the first people to follow her Instagram or subscribe to her OnlyFans. Yeah. It's this duality of like, do not respect women, but use them for their bodies.
Absolutely.
Use them for pornographic pleasure.
Which has always been misogyny, but then this is a new format of it.
It's under the guise of, I don't know, this like wisdom or community.
Well, and they falsely inflate these statistics. And I think that like the Manosphere itself and the red pill ideology is founded on a bunch of lies in general. And so like the idea that instead of saying to a woman like, okay, sure, let's say his calculator is correct, it's not, and there is only like 2% of the world's population is fitting her requirements, there is the option, hear me out, to not date anyone then. And like, first of all, he does not value that at all as a viable option, which I understand how beneficial marriage is for men. So I understand why a goal would be to get married. Marriage is not beneficial for women, not health-wise, not financially. There are many deficits that a woman faces in society when she does get married. And so to value it the same way and say like, okay, well then like you're not worth this type of man, like you can still be worth that type of man and not find him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, there are like multiple avenues that I want to go down right now, but I think I want to preface by saying, even when we were thinking about covering this documentary, I have a real problem with people who will benefit from the attention no matter whether it's good or bad. Like at the end of the day, all 4 of the creators in this documentary will have new people infiltrate their audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not infiltrate, but new followers.
Engaging with their content, whether it be in a positive or negative way.
Yes. And that will make them money. That will give them more power to do what they have been doing. Like in the attention economy, it's very true that it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. Absolutely. If you have a platform and you are gaining monetarily from that platform, it's really hard to say that, you know, they came out of the documentary worse.
Yes.
And I also think as a documentary, I don't know that it was that effective for me as an audience member, but I will elaborate further on that.
Okay.
I think being someone who is already online and aware of those spaces, it was a Netflix documentary that does what Netflix documentaries do. And that gives them an introduction to this world that they may not be familiar with.
Yes.
And gives them some basic terms to understand the lingo. Yeah. I have seen Louis Theroux documentaries. I saw America's Most Hated Family, where he went inside the Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh.
And Louis and the Nazis, where he interviews and gets kind of inside the minds of some Nazis that live in California. Mm-hmm. And I think one of his greatest strengths as an interviewer and as a documentarian is asking questions to get people talking. Mm-hmm. And then he lets them kind of ramble on so long that they end up contradicting themselves, or you end up seeing what's below that surface layer. Mm-hmm. These guys in the Manosphere are so media trained. Mm-hmm. They have these carefully crafted personas. They are so used to being asked the questions.
Yeah.
They are so used to being on camera that I think they really didn't trip up at all. I think they say everything in a live stream that they said to him. I think the only one who comes out looking bad is HS Tiki Taki. And the other guys, I think, would be crazy happy with.
Yeah. I was going to say, you said his name is Justin Walker? Waller?
Waller, I think. Hang on. Justin Waller.
Justin Waller. I was going to say, I found, even though he was not saying as many hateful things as Harrison Sullivan was, I thought that he was the most dangerous out of all of those men because he owns a like online university platform called The Real World. And what he's saying in comparison was not that ludicrous. And it comes across as if, well, I just want to provide for a woman. Like, I just want to be the protector. I want to be the provider. And when you think about that on a base level, it doesn't sound that bad. But when you get down to his like misogynistic values and why he thinks that he wants to provide for this woman, and it boils down to what he had said about like a woman's value being her beauty and that he has a one-sided monogamous marriage. So the wife is expected to be monogamous, but he is not. And he has like his relationship is none of my business. What two consenting adults do is none of my business. And he was very open about it, trying to kind of seem like I understand how it looks and you know, like do what I say, not as I do, basically. And I thought that was the most dangerous because I could see why that's the most appealing to men. Like he, for me, came out very media trained, very put together. I could see why young men would look up to him as a role model.
Well, and that was going to be the second part of.
So sorry.
Why? No. I think it's a good segue. The second part of why I think the documentary highlights important information, but misses to me an entire other half of why it's dangerous. And it was precisely in one of the interactions that Justin Waller had with a fan, and then Louis prompts him about it afterwards, saying like, you know, what do you think when these guys come up to you and say you're a huge role model for them? And he says, there are two things in this world I tell anyone who stops me. Number one, I love you. Number two, there's nothing in this world you can't do. At face value, that is exactly what that community of young men needs to hear.
Absolutely.
In this crisis of loneliness, when there is such severe economic instability that people are being left behind and they give you a scapegoat.
Yes.
And the scapegoat is women. The scapegoat is institutions. The scapegoat is diversity. That Black people are taking your jobs. That Jewish people are running everything and they want to take you down. But it starts with the message of I love you. It starts with the community aspect.
Well, and they're not wrong when they say the system is not built to benefit working class men. It's not, capitalism is not built to benefit anyone who is working class. And so I can like totally see why someone who's really struggling to make it in that system would hear, you know what, I love you, I believe in you, you can do what you want, and kind of that be the entryway into the deeper, you know, like when you pull someone in like that and make them feel accepted into your community and you make them feel valued for who they are, and then you slowly start to provide information about who has made them feel like undervalued, that's where those red pill thoughts come in. And it's that scapegoat that you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think who has made them feel undervalued is a very important statement and question to ask, because I had feelings, but I also wanted to do like a little bit of research and see what other people were saying. And Therapy Jeff by far had my favorite response to this, and giving him a shout out 2 episodes in a row.
But she loves Therapy
truly, I think he summed it up so well. And I think it's what I was feeling was missing from the documentary in terms of the audience impact. Like, what does that mean for these young men who are running up to these guys in the streets and saying like, you're my idol? What does that mean for how they conduct themselves in the world today? And you can look to something like adolescence as the second part of that conversation.
Yes.
You can look to the way that Chris talks about women in Love is Blind and how he thought Bree should be embarrassed for being with Connor because he's
not an alpha.
He's submissive and she needs someone who will dominate her. When that is not something she ever expressed, that is something subconscious bias, him reaching, which then further isolates these men because they don't value women. They don't value those connections.
No.
And that isolated him from Connor as well, his only friend in the group. So it makes them more violent and more aggressive, and I think only makes the problem worse. And Therapy Jeff broke it down in a way that I think simplifies everything, but also illuminates exactly where the work needs to be done instead. So he references Brene Brown's 4 elements of shame resilience. Because at the end of the day, all of these men in the Manosphere have been humiliated.
Yes.
Everything they do is to impress other men.
I was going to say that.
To belong to this community that values guys who work out, who are super buff, who get bitches and So getting into the 4 elements of shame resilience, they are 1, recognizing shame and understanding triggers. 2, practicing critical awareness, or as he says, reality check the narrative you're telling yourself. 3, reaching out. And 4, speaking shame. And that the Manosphere actually does all of those things. It gives men a way to process their shame. And he gives the examples. So recognizing the shame is red pill. You've been lied to your whole life. You're living in the matrix and it's women's fault. Critical awareness, women only want rich, high status men. You have no value. You are nothing. You have to build everything for yourself. 3, reaching out. Here's a link to my Discord group. Here's a link to the Reddit subchat. Here's my live stream where you can comment and see everyone else's community. And 4, speaking shame. Okay, now make the content. Spread the gospel. Amplify the message. Be a sheep. But that an essential part of the end process, or the process in general of those 4 elements, is being witnessed in your pain by someone who doesn't flinch. Whereas the Manosphere has community, but it's conditional. If you violate any of the ideology, you are excluded. And there's no vulnerability and there's no accountability. It's not, I'm ashamed because I feel this way. It's, I'm ashamed because it's your fault. And that shame, that unprocessed shame, turns into anger and resentment and violence. And I think that is the second part that is left out of the documentary. And I think the third part is women's opinions and women's impact.
I thought that as a tool, like thinking about the people in my life that I like to talk about these issues with, I thought that potentially as a tool for people who are not on social media, like such as older generations, and even men who are maybe beginning to fall down that red pill pipeline, this might be a good documentary, like preliminary step, because it explains the how someone profits off of this. I definitely think that you're correct that if we actually want to have a productive conversation about the Manosphere and red pill content, then we need to keep going those extra steps, and having a woman's perspective at all included in the documentary would have been great. However, I will say the only reason that they even let Louis into the Manosphere was because he was a man. So it's
because he was a white man.
Because he was a
also.
white man, a white straight cis man. So I don't know that this documentary would have any impact on men if a woman spoke in it, because it would have undervalued, like they're now looking at these men that have what they want. They have the followers, they have the money, they have the attention. And so I think if they would have included a woman's opinion, I think like potentially the impacts that they have on men may not have been there because they stopped listening.
Yeah, I do think I completely agree. And I think that's more so why I said that the second part is the audience.
Yes.
I don't know that men falling down that current red pill pipeline could come away from that documentary going, I see myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's something important that was missing. But I don't know that that narrative would have worked with what clearly this documentary specifically was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
However, in my research, I came across a creator called Zandland. His name is Ben Zand, and he is a documentary maker. And he talks a lot about like the Manosphere red pill content. And in one of his kind of summary videos, he did give the statistic that I found important that I think was left out of the conversation about the Manosphere. And that is that there was a study that showed 15% of men have no close relationships at all, which is up 5 times from 1990.
Oh, wow.
5 times. They are becoming so isolated, and these online communities are only helping to increase that isolation. So he specifically looks at incel culture, and he's looked at looks maxing, and he's looked at gooning. Gooning is guys who don't stop masturbating. Like they watch porn and masturbate for upwards of like 10 hours a day. It couldn't be more than that, could be less than that. But essentially it's a faction of men. So I would say a little bit more of like the fringe cultures.
Right.
But I think why his documentaries and why his storytelling is so effective is because he's got a central character in each one. So he talks to someone who rents girlfriends. He talks to someone who is an incel. He talks to someone who goons. And he allows them the space to open up, but he also listens to what exactly is behind their shame, what's behind their embarrassment. Like one of the guys, I think it's from, I can't remember which documentary it's from, and he hears the guy saying, women don't want a guy who's not super buff. Women don't want a guy who's under 6 feet. Women don't want to talk to ugly guys. Women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he hears, I want to be heard and seen by a woman as myself. So all he does does is sets up a conversation between this guy and a woman. And the guy comes out of the conversation changed. And I think truly getting lost in an echo chamber like that is so dangerous.
Yes.
And I think it's really easy to come out of, and that we're not putting enough effort in.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I know we've got our own shit going on. I don't necessarily want to be the one to pull someone out.
No, yeah, it does. It is both disappointing and unjust that the responsibility would be on women to pull men out of that.
But here's the thing. He's doing it.
Yeah, he's facilitating it. But
He's facilitating it, yeah. And I think he sets a very important standard for a lot of other men
absolutely
out there. Like, I think truly building that community is so important, but also the way in which we tell the stories very much matter. And I think I left the documentary and then all of this research truly just sad.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I was angry. I was very angry, but mostly I was just sad because it feels like a faction of society that sees that there is injustice,
Yeah.
but is not able to, or truly just hasn't been guided.
Yes. Is being shepherded
Yeah.
the wrong way.
Is being shepherded down a pipeline that ultimately only gets them further from the reality they desire.
Yeah, I agree.
And drags us all down with them.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about why we're sad about the Manosphere.
Yeah. Howdy ho. Hey, you. Glad to see you again.
We left off at Kat feeling sad at the Manosphere. And I feel like we might talk a little bit more about why we're feeling sad about that and then kind of get into some more hopeful and happy thoughts.
Yeah. Because the documentary certainly leaves you feeling a little bit bleak.
Yes.
It's like, hey, it's stupid, see? And then that's it. It's like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? Doesn't feel like the men in the Manosphere lost. Like,
No, nor does it feel like any of the men in the Manosphere in the documentary changed their minds.
no, certainly not.
So we're going to maybe add to that discourse. We're going to maybe provide you with that hope. But first, let's finish on the sad note. Do you want to just talk a little bit more about like why you hold that sadness, why it made you sad?
Yeah, I think it made me sad because I can understand why they believe what they do. And I think that's ultimately because I see where their insecurities are. I see how society is letting men down in some ways.
Yeah.
And I see it's almost like a desperation to be noticed. And that makes me really sad because I don't think a lot of these men should have to look to online forums or pay for courses on how to be a man to obtain that like personal growth that they're looking for or get the things in life that they want. And it makes me very sad that a lot of these influencers and content creators are preying on that loneliness and that vulnerability and that insecurity while not only leading them down a deeper, darker path, but also not actually helping them fix any of the problems in the first place.
Yeah. I think it makes, I was saying to Kat during our break that it can make me a little bit nauseous looking into all that stuff. And partly just because I have so much experience of how harmful those ideas can be. And like, it makes me so upset. And this sounds so basic, but it makes me so upset that some men hold those beliefs and like actively would dislike me because I'm a woman for no reason. Like I was reading a research paper that interviewed, I think it was 32 men that had exited the Manosphere or the red pill content role that they were in. And a lot of their realization and what helped them to kind of exit that group was that they would go onto these subreddits where a man would say, you know, like women don't want short men, women don't want bald men. And then there would be a flood of comments from women saying, I love my short bald boyfriend. Like, I love him. It's the insecurity that is projected that women don't love. It has nothing to do with your actual looks. And there's a girl who's famous on TikTok called Toupee Queen, and she does hair systems for a lot of men.
Yes.
And one of her like most famous posts is with a guy who looks incredible like, with it. But he now has his own platform where he talks about maintaining his hair system. And some guy was reacting to it saying, I opened the comments expecting there to be women shredding him, being like, you're, you know, like, this is so ugly. Like, baldy, like stuff like that. And he said that all he saw was like an outpouring of support being like, you look amazing, King. And like, this is so good. And he said that when you can see misandry as a reaction to misogyny, it helps to take you away from that blame of women, because you see that women at their core do not hate men. Women dislike oppressive men.
Yeah.
And so it makes me angry that men who get into red pill content will behave in a way that is harmful to women. And then when women want nothing to do with that, we're quote unquote reinforcing the idea that we're awful to men. And it makes me like angry that I have to react with poise and consideration and empathy for your position, even though you're being rude. But it's otherwise what I'm proving you right. Like it's upsetting to think of the cycle, I think is more so what I mean.
Yeah. And I think it's tough because I don't want, nor do I think the onus should be on women.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it will never work if it is women alone.
Yeah. No.
It simply wouldn't, nothing would ever change.
No, I agree.
I think where I stand on it is when we preach community and building community, I hold space to hear people out where they are, meet them where they're at. However, I don't think that is space that everyone can or should hold. Like there are some people who can be therapists and some people who can't be therapists.
So fair. That is so fair.
Maybe that's an easier way to sum it up. And perhaps identifying where you lie in all of that is beneficial. Like, I think evaluating your capacity and wanting to have to put yourself in that situation of like mediating essentially with someone who is actively your oppressor, like evaluate whether or not you want to do that. I think that's an important first step. I don't think at all that like we're not, and I don't think anyone should say that this is work that everyone should be doing.
Oh, in terms of like mediating with their oppressor and educating. Oh, absolutely not. I don't think the onus is on the oppressed.
No, and that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's what,
I think you were just saying that like women, unfortunately, like women have to put in that work because the bridge won't be built. And I was just saying that I completely understand why women want nothing to do with building that bridge.
Yeah.
Or why anyone who's like impacted by a system of oppression does not want to have to negotiate with their oppressors.
No, absolutely.
Or concede on things or have to hold space for those hateful views. Mm-hmm. And I think it can be, I think a lot of people, and then because we're talking about red pill and manosphere and incels, like women specifically are exhausted by continuously having to have these conversations and it potentially not changing, or having these conversations and then turning around and actively being harmed by these belief systems.
Yeah.
Maybe you could elaborate more on what you were saying about women knowing that it can be exhausting to negotiate with your oppressor and have to have these conversations. Maybe elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by women building that bridge. And
yeah. So for example, if there is someone in your life that is falling kind of down the red pill pipeline, the manosphere pipeline, who constantly talks about how women play the victim all the time, that women use men, that women are worth less, and we should go back to quote unquote traditional roles where women are in the kitchen, that those fundamentally oppressing beliefs will create anger.
mm-hmm.
And if they have shown after you have been like, stop saying that, an unwillingness to change anything about their belief system, sure, why the hell would you ever want to do the work?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I have also read about a lot of experiences where men who have kind of fallen down that pipeline have been sat down by their grandmothers and their mothers and their sisters and people in their life, or even their friends. And where people have taken the time to say, hey, women don't actually think all of those things. Like, I hear you, and I think that you are being misguided, and I see that you are feeling insecure, and I want to help you solve those problems. I want to help you find your community. I want to help you feel loved.
Right.
Hearing someone out like that, and I think also hearing a woman's perspective saying, hey, we don't actually think that way, has pulled many men out of the manosphere. So I think I come at it from a perspective of like, you have to know if you have capacity for that.
Yeah.
But also if no
one has capacity for that,
nothing changes.
Right. I see. I get what you're saying. Yeah. I think that one thing that I really struggle with when it comes to the manosphere and knowing myself and whether I have the space for that, I think that they're outside of the manosphere. There are many ways in which the socialization of men and patriarchy in general are letting men down and also letting women down. So when I will complain, let's say verbally, about like the domestic work that women will put into their lives, their relationships, and how the majority of domestic work in a partnership lies on the woman. And I think that there is weaponized incompetence and sometimes in men, but I also think there is just a general incompetence because you're not socially raised and or expected to be able to do that domestic work for yourself. You go from having a mother to a wife. And so I think the patriarchy has also let you down. But then I struggle sometimes because when I do complain about that, like I come across as a man hater as opposed to a misogyny hater. And then I think that sometimes like creates that disconnect between me and men who may not be in the red pill community, but feel that now like they're like, I haven't done anything wrong and you're hating on me. And I think that lack sometimes of self-awareness, and it's so hard. Like, it's not just men for women. It's so hard as a white person to see how some of the things you do are harming people of color. And I think that everyone gets defensive when they hear that. And so I always struggle with that defense to make that connection and to hear someone like I don't know if that's one of my strengths.
Yeah.
And I am passionate about it, but I don't know if I personally have the patience to lead someone out of it because I get frustrated or exhausted by that quickly.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about when I'm saying you've got to know whether or not you have capacity and want. Because like if you don't want to, don't. That is your act of resistance.
Yes.
Okay. And I also think it reminded me of another kind of like tactic, ways to get out of the manosphere that I saw, which was having positive male role models who identify as feminists or who exist as a clear opposite to the manosphere is so important. And I was reading an article in The Guardian from a teenager who fell into, I keep saying fell into the manosphere, the pipeline, but I don't have another word to describe the action of succumbing to the ideology of the manosphere.
It is both like it is a choice, but also like you are being preyed upon. So we'll just keep going with fell into, and everyone knows what she means.
And he said, you know, he used to watch all those like Ben Shapiro owns 20 feminist videos, like whatever.
The gotcha moments.
Yeah. But specifically, he was watching something where they were talking about toxic masculinity. And he just had the realization that he couldn't remember the last time he heard the word masculinity without toxic in front of it. And so I think when we don't talk about positive masculinity, people assume that there is only one way to be masculine. And if they want to be masculine, they have to follow those toxic patterns because otherwise they're soy boys. They're fruity.
It's almost as if masculinity doesn't exist unless it's the extreme.
Exactly.
Like then you are written off as feminine.
Whereas I think those examples of positive masculinity are so important.
And I also think that women do appreciate, for instance, like acts of chivalry, which can be, you know, like you're really owning your masculinity. And I don't think that femininity and masculinity is exclusive to a gender. Obviously, as two lesbians, like there aren't men in our relationships. And there are times when we like both embrace our masculinity or femininity. But I think that positive masculinity can lead to chivalry and thoughtfulness. Like I love men who open the car doors for women before they get in. And I'll give like my father and brother this much: when we walk on the street, they take the side with the cars. Like, and I don't find that demeaning personally.
No.
And to me, that's a real man. To me, that is masculinity at its best. But that is not what the red pill content is displaying as masculinity. And you're right. That was a huge gotcha for me. I don't think I've heard masculinity talked about without toxic in it either.
Yeah. But I think that illustrates that so much more of the onus needs to be on men.
Yes.
To be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And to tell their stories and to uplift each other.
Yes.
That it's gotta come from a place of empowerment.
Yes.
Because that's what the manosphere is. It's a false promise of empowerment by tearing down other people.
Right. I would say what I would ask of men in this, because we've kind of been talking about what we ask of women, but what I would ask of men would be to understand that while you can be a feminist or have, not necessarily maintain those harmful views towards women, when we are in a majority group, we all often fall into patterns of behavior that continue to oppress another group. And so I find sometimes the defense from men is, well, I don't hate women. Like even people who aren't in the red pill, they're like, I wouldn't go that far, so I can't be who they're talking about. And you can be a great man and still keep perpetuating the patriarchy. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad man.
Mm-hmm.
If a man says to me, like, no, I'm a big supporter of women in sports, like that's an act of feminism. You should be able to maintain that truth in yourself while also maybe hearing how a woman might say to you, hey, like this emotional labor for this different thing that you're putting on me, like that's part of the patriarchy as well. And you can hold those two truths together, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, and it doesn't mean that you're wrong.
And I think that's a really, really important distinction of like, I'm not calling you out because I think you're a bad person. I'm calling you out because I know you're capable.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think so many young men in particular, like not only are there things you haven't learned about the world yet, there are also like skills you have yet to develop because society hasn't asked you to develop those yet. And
Precisely.
So being called to action doesn't mean that you're being called a bad person or that we are saying you are incapable of ever doing something and thus you suck. We are saying, I think you're capable. Here are the tools.
Precisely.
I think it's also important to bear in mind that when you're being called out, you have to consider the emotional labor of the person who was calling you out.
Mm-hmm.
The person who has been filling those gaps.
Absolutely. This is a common issue in relationships where, and I've heard it from like my girlfriends with their boyfriends. So I haven't heard it from the other way around, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But a girlfriend will say, I don't feel considered. I don't feel like you're putting enough effort into this relationship. And then the boyfriend responds, okay, well then tell me what to do. Like you have just put the emotional labor now. Not only is it emotionally laborious to bring that up with a partner and expose that vulnerability, but now you're also putting the emotional labor of coming up with solutions to that on her as well. And so I think you're so right. Like it is very important to recognize the emotional labor of someone even opening themselves up to that conversation and how they've been filling the gaps.
Yeah.
And I get it. This system has benefited men for so long. Like, why would you want to give that up? I totally understand why there's well, I'm not going to do my dishes because she'll do them. Like, and like, why would I want to give that up? I understand the resistance to it, but I don't have empathy for it.
No. No.
I can understand why it feels personal. We've kind of talked about how it's not. Like now that it has been laid out for you, the emotional labor is yours.
Yeah.
If you value that relationship with that woman.
Yeah. And also like as people who have spoken about hating men before, I think it was important for us to follow through on those little comments that we make sometimes. And also, I don't think we need to clarify, but somewhat clarifying that like, when we talk about hating men, we are talking about hating the patriarchy.
Yes.
And we're talking about hating the same systems that disadvantage you.
Yes.
And that occasionally you may be guilty of playing into.
Yes.
Because we call out your actions doesn't mean we hate you. It means that we believe that you are capable of more.
Yeah. And I feel after talking and you saying like, and us as lesbians, like we feel exhausted by men. Can't even imagine the ones who still want to date them.
No.
Like just mean like, that's crazy. Best of luck to y'all.
Yeah. Best of luck.
I will continue to make man hating comments until the pay gap is solved.
The pay gap. I was like, what's the pig app?
And men, if you are good men and you consider yourself allies of women, you will understand that I'm not referring to you and you will laugh. I liked that wink. Yeah, know that shit. Like, know who is leading you, know if they have your best interests at heart. And like we've said before, if they are selling you something, it is not about you, it is about their pockets.
Yep. They're using that to buy another Lambo or rent another $20,000 per month bachelor pad in Miami. They really don't care about you.
No. And everything does root back to capitalism.
Yeah. So how to get out of the Manosphere, read the Communist Manifesto.
Yep.
Get into Marxism.
Yep. Follow that man.
Yep. Maybe absurdism as well. And read a little bit of Camus.
Maybe some clown art.
Yeah.
Get into clowning. Don't goon, clown.
We've solved it. End the podcast.
Honk something else.
Less honk, honk, more honk, honk. Jesus Christ. I feel like I just threw up, you know?
Well, thanks for listening.
Hope there was at least some iota of value in this for you and you learned something new.
Or even relatability.
Yeah.
Just feeling like maybe we understand what you're feeling too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for staying through all of this. We value and appreciate you for watching us, and we're not even trying to sell you anything. So
no, truly not a product in sight.
No.
Would love if a product wanted us to sell.
Would love. But that's another issue for another time. So for now, we'll catch you at the next one, the season finale.
Season finale.
All right.
Bippity boppity bye. Human.